guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name's Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some butthurt volleyball players. I don't talk politics here, but I think pretty much all of us can agree that the strong left movement in the United States is primarily the one pushing to help prop up the people that are transitioning to something else. And what I find interesting is about 65% of all women vote democratically. It has a lot more to do with feelings. It strikes on their emotional chords, I think, to hear people. It makes them feel good when they hear that, these people really care and they're going to do something and they're going to change the world, and they kind of oftentimes push with feelings. This is another example of you get what you asked for, because these women that are voting for this kind of, like, propping up this kind of movement is now getting pushed out of their own safe spaces. They're safe, I should say. They're getting pushed out of their own women's spaces. And they're not too happy about it. But again, it boils down to, well, this is what you asked for. It's what you voted for. So now enjoy, what's the expression? My, how the turns have tabled. Before we jump into that, remember, we are in the race to a retreat. We're still in first place, but now we've got somebody else now named Chomnick that has leaped up. So we keep getting these big names that are coming out of nowhere. So I don't know if that means that they're catching up, but we've got somebody new in second place. So make sure to use the links down below the video or in the first pinned comment, and either order one of Jeremy's razors. It's a great subscription package. You're supporting everybody over at the Daily Wire. Great independent news with, yes, a little bit of a conservative viewpoint on it, but they don't hide that. And they tell a lot of stories that are not in the mainstream news. Or you can get a Daily Wire subscription. But I would appreciate it if you do, to help us win some money to get a men's retreat. All right, so here's the main story here. This is from Blaze Media. A high school bans girls from the girls' locker room after some object to changing with a biological male. So now, because you've got one individual that doesn't feel comfortable, or excuse me, feels very comfortable changing in the girls' locker room, but the girls are not so great with it, and 10 women have been asked to leave the locker room, leaving it basically to this one person all to themselves. And they say, is this how we do feminism now? So on the news and Why It Matters, Blaze TV host Sarah Gonzalez and guests Jorge Ventura, or actually George Ventura, I guess, but I think that's Jorge with a J, and John Doyle discussed the latest blow to women's rights, as almost an entire girls' volleyball team has been forced out of their own locker room to accommodate one transitioning student. A Vermont high school banned the girls' volleyball team. That's right. A high school banned their own female volleyball team from using the female locker room after several team members objected to having to change clothes in front of a teammate that was transitioning. Families were told under new state law, the transitioning students can use whatever locker room they identified with. And I didn't mean to click that button. They say the dispute began after the student allegedly made an inappropriate comment while the girls were dressing. Team member Blake Allen told WCAX-TV. Allen made it clear that she does not object to having the student on the team or at the school, but is uncomfortable with biological boys in the girls' locker room. Now, what I think is so interesting about this is a person that has simply said, I'm identifying this way, but they are still, in all intents purposes, packed with meat and veg, or a trouser snake and the boys intact, which means that, they are male in this case, physically, biologically. And he's in the locker room with 10 other girls changing for volleyball, and he said something inappropriate. And when the girls didn't like that, they got kicked out. And this is why I say so oftentimes, when you start going down this road of identity politics, what makes it so dangerous is that you have to almost have a hierarchy of who is the most oppressed and who is the most valuable in society, and their views will be listened to the most. Now, when you go back prior to 1960 and Brown versus the Board of Education, it was said by many, hey, you know what? We should not be separating the white students from the black students. They should all be put together, have the same opportunities, have the same teachers, have the same schools. Everything should be the same because we do not want to have anybody else on the out of society or looked at as a second-class citizen. Well, in this case now, what's happening is everybody that is not a transitioning person is considered second class. And then from there, it breaks down even further, which is if you're male, it's one way, female, another, white, black, Latino, Latina, Latinx, and they're breaking it all down this way. And what's going to end up happening is either you have to kind of forget it all, or you're going to have to say, something, we're going to have 15 different bathrooms, and this one has a kitty litter box, and this one has a scratching post to make sure everybody's okay with everything. And when you get to this, you're getting into a very bad position to where, and it's happening now, where they're actually ignoring parts of the law or not prosecuting some people or just letting people outright go because of either their political beliefs or who they identify with, or you name it. And when you have such an unequal society, you're going to have problems. And the reason why this is solely going to affect women is because any changing from man to woman or woman to man, they always end up on the women's teams because the women are not as competitive, they're not as strong, they're not as fast, they don't have the endurance that men have in most sports. I'd say the vast majority of sports. So of course they're always going to go to the easier team so they can excel and be a superstar. There's now someone in tennis that has done the change, and she is in first place in many tournaments. Same thing is happening in golf. Same thing is happening in skateboarding. It's going to go all the way down through, and there are people that will take advantage of this. If you didn't see the segment that I did where I was talking about the teacher that was kind of dishing out red pills and teaching young men interesting information about being men, and the school board caught wind of it, and they started leaning on him a little bit, and he just decided to throw on some prosthetic tatas, call himself a woman, and now the school is protecting her, as it were, and the system is being rigged. So people are going to play the game. And who's going to suffer from this? 100% the women. But again, you get what you ask for. The school reportedly told families that the school has plenty of space where students who feel uncomfortable with the laws may change in privacy. But according to Allen, they want all the girls who feel uncomfortable, so pretty much 10 girls, to get changed in a single stall bathroom, which would take over 30 minutes, where if one person got changed separately, it would take a minute, like no extra time. So again, because this is the girls' room, instead of making a separate room for this one unique individual, they've just decided, well, the law says they can go into any restroom, and if you girls don't like it, all 10 of you can now go use the spare room. And yeah, it may take, 10 times as long, but oh well, tough. And the women are paying for it. But here in the article, even the women said, we don't mind this person being on the team. We don't mind this person being in the school. And something, when you say, I don't mind them being on the team, understand that the other team may start getting them. And eventually, especially with the big push that we've got going on right now for this kind of thing, give it another 5 or 10 years when some of these, younger kids who are listening to all this stuff and start moving on through it, pretty soon you're going to have a men's team and pretty much a transitioned women's team, which is going to be a bunch of guys and the women aren't going to cut it anymore. They're just going to be out. Then you're going to have to make like a third, which is going to be men's, women's, and other. Now the school is conducting an investigation into allegations that the girls gave this student a hard time. I feel like for stating my opinion that I don't want to be a biological man changing with me, that I should not have harassing charges or bullying charges. They should all be dropped, Allen said. This is absolute madness, Sarah asserted. So here a student that just spoke out and said, I'm not comfortable with this person in the dressing room. They're having charges pressed against them, against this girl now. I think this is just like male excellence, John said facetiously. At all ages, boys like to conquer things. And and you saw all this nonsense in the latter half of the 20th century. Oh, Title IX, we want to play sports too. And now the boys are just taking these locker rooms back. And we're taking the sports teams back. And we're winning the championships again. And you love to see it. Now, he was being sarcastic, like he said. But yeah, this is basically, and somebody, let me read this because this is funny. And he says, on a more serious note, this is the true patriarchy, Sarah interjected. Literally, men are replacing women in every single thing. That literally is the patriarchy that the leftists keep warning us about. It's here, and you're supporting it. Now, let me just say this. This is not patriarchy, because patriarchy, you have to be a man to be in the patriarchy. This person, according to at least their own rules, is not a man. This is, I guess, a woman who dislikes other women now at this point. You see, the waters are going to get muddled here really quick. That's pretty much all they have in the article, but I wanted to touch on this because, it's another great instance of women are always going to be affected the most by this particular issue because no one is coming to the men's teams, whether they go from male to female, female to male. No one's walking onto a men's teams because they can't cut it. They will get decimated. But everybody's moving to the women's league because it's a lot easier. And you know what? These guys have advantages. Bigger lungs, bigger hearts, bigger muscles, stronger tendons, taller, especially if they wait a little later in life. Or in this case, where they're still a biological man and maybe they aren't even taking any chemicals to alter that. And so women are now basically going to be competing against guys in wigs at certain points. And yes, they are putting some rules into place. But we'll see how strong they push on these rules. They're either going to have to break this down and change things, or I think women's sports is done. But again, you get what you ask for. And ladies, you voted for this. So, guys, if you're here on YouTube, make sure to join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com. I got probably twice as long a video over there. I'm always doing additional content and things over there. So make sure to join me over there today with about 55,000 other guys and a couple of gals that like the men's community, so you can see the other stuff that you're missing.